Ex caught me cheating on him.
My ex was the biggest player in my college. All the girls knew him and everyone warned me not to hang out with him. Of course I didn't listen. He asked me to be his girlfriend and I said yes, of course. We had been going out for a few months, but every time he would go to a frat party, I would hear from someone else that he had been cheating on me or that he was trying to hook up with other girls. And I would ask him about it. He would absolutely deny it and say that people were just trying to separate us because they were envious of our relationship. I believed him a little bit, but something told me I shouldn't. So of course I decided to check his messages, and guess what? I found a bunch of messages between him and girls that he went to class with. I confronted him and he denied everything. He said those were not his messages and that I was probably making things up. He deleted the messages before I could take screenshots. It was around the time of my birthday and I was planning a party, and I told him he couldn't come to my party because I was upset at him. I made sure to invite a friend of his to my party who I knew had a crush on me. So his friend and I got really cozy at my party. We started hanging out every single day after come back from Part 2. So my cheating boyfriend didn't show up to my birthday party. Instead, I invited one of his friends who I knew had a crush on me. Let's call him Bob. Well, Bob and I started hanging out all the time. Behind my boyfriend's back, of course. My boyfriend and I would hang out less and less. Well, Bob started catching feelings and he asked me to break up with my boyfriend and to basically come clean to him. And I said no. I had no intention of leaving my boyfriend. I just wanted to get revenge. And honestly, it felt really good to do that. Bob got really upset because I didn't want to break up with my boyfriend and he went off. I started hearing rumors around the school about me hooking up with Bob. My boyfriend asked me about it and I said, I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't hooked up with anyone. My boyfriend didn't believe me. My boyfriend went to a party that night and he didn't invite me, which of course, you know what that means. I asked Bob if we could hang out, so I went over to his place. We're on his couch kissing and my boyfriend comes in through the door. Part 3. So while I'm hooking up with Bob on his couch, my boyfriend walks in through the door. Bob got up from the couch and went and stood next to my boyfriend. And my boyfriend just begins to say, I knew that you were cheating on me. You see, I knew it. Rumors were true. And I said, well, you've been cheating on me for months since we started dating. Then Bob pipes up and says, look, I'm sorry I did this to you, but it had to be done. I slowly started to realize that I had been set up by both of them. I went back to my dorm and I didn't speak to them for a few days. My boyfriend was calling and begging me to get back with him. He said he would forgive me for the cheating if I forgave him for cheating on me. But Bob was also messaging me asking me to be his girlfriend. He said he'd never cheat on me like my boyfriend did and that he really had feelings for me. Well, I didn't get back with my boyfriend, but we're hooking up. And I'm still hooking up with Bob too, but I made a promise that he wouldn't tell my ex. I did find out that my ex cheated on me with 15 girls, and that's on toxic.
Rating celebrities I've met while working in Los Angeles and New York. Part 1. I'll start with the juiciest one, J.C. Chazé. He came into the Mexican restaurant I was working in on Sunset Boulevard and he was begging me to go home with him for a party he was having. He was like, oh, I have so many people coming over, just come over. And I kept saying no. And then I basically had to get someone else to go serve him because he was really drunk. Now for the rudest celeb I've ever met, Rick Ross. He came with his posse of almost 10 guys, including himself. They sat outside. They didn't want anyone else to be sat outside. We didn't see anyone else. They demanded only I go to their table. And when I did go to their table, his posse then informed me that Rick Ross would not be speaking to me and that I should direct all my questions to them. And he never looked me in the face, never said hello, not one thing. None of them said hello. It was not like that. And then they didn't tip me on a $600 bill. They had a bunch of quesadillas and margaritas.
Storytime about how I caught my husband with his mistress. My husband and I, or should I say my has-been of a husband, have been married for 9 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me. My husband and I also have 2 kids. When we met, I was totally out of his league and he knew it. We met through friends and he made sure to tell all of my friends how much he wanted to be with me. At the time, I was modeling to pay my way through school, so I had no time for a boyfriend. But he got pretty insistent. We went out on a few dates and he treated me really well, better than all the guys I had met at that time. He was a gentleman, always picked up the tab and treated me with respect. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes. 2 years later, he asked me to be his wife and I said yes. We were truly in love and best of all, we were best friends. I could talk to him about anything because he wasn't the jealous type. 4 months ago, he asked me for an open relationship. Of course, I said no, and this made him really angry. I got really suspicious and started checking his phone when he'd fall asleep. And that's when I found pictures of him with a girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Part 2 is up. Once he fell asleep, I checked his phone, and that's when I found pictures of him with another girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I decided not to confront him. Instead, I started gathering evidence. I started following him around everywhere after I dropped the kids off at school. Mind you, I quit my job because he wanted me to stay at home with the kids. On the first day I started following him, he went to a hotel. Since I didn't want him to see me, I stayed in my car. 40 minutes, he exits the hotel with a woman. By the way, these were not cheap hotels. A few days later, I followed him to a strip club. I checked his bank account and he had withdrawn $2,000 that same day. That's when I really got upset. A few days later, I followed him to an apartment complex. That's when I see a woman opening the door, and it was the same woman from the hotel. My stomach dropped. After about a week, I mustered up the courage to go talk to her. When she opened the door, she recognized me instantly. She tried to close the door in my face, but I pushed my way in. Then the coward ran to her room and locked herself in there. Part 3. My husband's mistress runs to her room and locks the door when she sees me. What a coward. I ran right after her and I told her that I wasn't going to hurt her and that I just wanted to talk. Of course, she asked me to leave, but I told her I wasn't going to move an inch until we talked. She comes out and we proceed to talk for 3 hours. She explained to me that she's an escort and that my husband pays for her apartment. She also told me that she wasn't in love with him and that she really only needed the money. This made me very happy. She also told me that aside from paying for her apartment, he gave her an allowance of $3,000 a month. Oh yeah, and that she knew about me and the kids. That's when I lost it. I took my pepper spray out of my purse and sprayed her. Fortunately, it didn't directly hit her in the face, but it still got her. I went straight to a lawyer and presented all the evidence. When I got home, my husband asked me how I found out. I showed him all the evidence and he was stunned. He's begging me not to divorce him because he knows it's going to be really expensive. I kicked him out and he went to his mom's house. His mom was angry and she didn't let him stay there. How much should I ask for? Story time about how I dated 2 brothers at the same time, and they both knew it. So I'm a personal trainer, and last year these 2 brothers came into my gym and wanted personal training. Well, I signed them up and they started training with me. They both constantly flirted with me, but I knew that they both had girlfriends. So I would usually train them at the same time, but they decided to train separately. This is when things got a little tricky. So one of the brothers, I'll call him James. James was always flirting with me and he made it very clear that he liked me. Every time he would flirt with me, I'd be like, hey, don't you have a girlfriend? He'd say, yeah, but we're kind of breaking up soon. I never took him seriously though. And the second brother, let's call him John. John also flirted a tiny bit, but he was a little bit more shy than James. Lo and behold, James comes into the gym one day and says that he broke up with his girlfriend and he started crying and I felt really bad for him and we talked for a bit and then we trained and then afterward he asked me if I wanted to get a coffee. I said sure. Went to get a coffee and we basically talked about his relationship. At the end of the coffee date, he actually kissed me. Watch part 2, it's already up. Part 2 of how I dated 2 brothers at the same time and they both knew it. So James told me that he broke up with his girlfriend and we ended up going for a coffee and he actually kissed me. Because I was his personal trainer, I thought of him as a client. So basically I didn't think it would go anywhere. On my next session with John, his brother, John says, hey, James said that you guys went on a little date. And I said, it wasn't a date. He said, well, when am I going to take you on a date? I said, I thought you had a girlfriend. He said, no, we actually just broke up over the weekend. So I said, sure, we can have lunch. It doesn't have to be a date. And he said, sure, that's fine. So we ended up going for lunch and he was way more shy than his brother James. And this actually made me like him. We basically had a 3-hour long lunch. We talked about every single thing you can imagine. We got along super well and I love that he wasn't trying to flirt with me the whole time like his brother. Then COVID hit and my gym closed, so I couldn't train anyone. Well, this didn't stop them from wanting to hang out with me separately. I basically started going out with each of them separately and they both knew it. So one day I'm at the beach with John and his ex comes up to us and throws a beer at him. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I dated 2 brothers at the same time and they both knew it. I was at the beach with John, one of the brothers, and his ex came up to us and threw a beer at him. And she said, wow, you're doing it again. I was confused. I had no idea what she was talking about. So John says, James and I need to talk to you. He drove me to his place where James was waiting for us. And they basically told me that they were both dating me at the same time and that they didn't mind and they just basically wanted me to be their shared girlfriend. I was totally confused, bewildered, and I just didn't even know how to respond. And I asked him what his ex-girlfriend meant by, you're doing it again. And he explained that she was also their shared girlfriend and that she wanted to be with them again. It was so messed up. So I didn't speak to them for a few days because I was really confused, but then James talked to me and he said, look, if you're not comfortable with this, we won't do it, but let's just try it out. Just be our shared girlfriend, you'll see, you'll love it. So I became their girlfriend and we dated for 3 months. Showered me with gifts, paid for everything, and of course I had so much attention. One day I would hang out with one and then the following day I'd hang out with the other one. Part 4 is already up. Part 4 of how I dated 2 brothers at the same time and they both knew it. So they basically asked me to be their shared girlfriend. I said yes because I liked them and they were actually really good boyfriends. So we dated for 3 months and then their ex shared girlfriend. So yeah, they had a girlfriend before me who they shared. She sent me a DM on Instagram and she was like, hey, look, I need to tell you something. She warned me that they were looking for a new girlfriend and that they would break up with me. I didn't believe her. Instead, I went to James and John and I said, look, is this true? And they said yes. They told me they only dated girls for 3 months, no more. And that basically our time was up. I was shocked. I felt so used. And stupidly enough, I had fallen in love with them, I know. After that, they didn't talk to me at all. Then I found out that they both had a new girlfriend and they were both sharing her, like me. So I started an Instagram group with all of their ex-girlfriends. And we told their new girlfriend, and she broke up with them. But guess what? John asked me to be his girlfriend again through text. We've been texting for like a week now. What do I do? Here's a little story time of what my crazy celebrity ex-boyfriend would get mad at if I did or did not do. He would get mad if I would, for example, go to the DMV and put lip gloss on to take a picture. He said that I was trying to get attention from other guys, and the fact that he wasn't going with me proved that I was trying to get attention from other guys, therefore pickup guys at the DMV. He would also get mad if I showed him too much affection or if I tried to kiss him, because he said that that meant that I was a nymphomaniac and that the only conclusion he could come to was that I was cheating on him because I was a nymphomaniac. So eventually I stopped being affectionate altogether, and that made him think that I didn't want him because I was never affectionate. So I told him one day, well, if I am affectionate, it's bad, but if I'm not affectionate, it's bad. And he said, you're right, so you're stuck. He would also, for some reason, think that I was Lil Wayne's side chick. So anytime a Lil Wayne song came on, I had to. Part 2 of what my celebrity ex-boyfriend would get mad at if I did or didn't do. He would get mad if I answered the phone too quick, because that meant that I was hiding something and I didn't want him to be suspicious. But it also made him mad if I didn't answer the phone quick enough, because that meant that I was definitely doing something bad. He would also get mad if I offered to go over to his place instead of mine, because that meant I was hiding guys in my apartment, in my bathroom, and in my closet. So he would randomly show up to my apartment, check underneath my bed, my closets, and my bathrooms. And when he saw that there was no one there, he would storm out and say, I'm going to catch you one day. He would also get upset if my manager or my agent called me telling me that I had an audition, because it made him envious, although he would say that what they were trying to do was actually pimp me out. He would get so envious and jealous if I had booked a commercial, if I was working on set, or if I had anything going for me in my life other than him.
Part 3 of all the things that would make my crazy celebrity ex-boyfriend jealous and upset. I happened to look like Lil Wayne's celebrity ex at the time, so Lil Wayne happened to say my name in a rap song, although I didn't know Lil Wayne, and he thought that that meant that I was for sure sleeping with Lil Wayne, although I didn't know Lil Wayne. He thought that I had all these connections with rappers and that I spent time with them every single week, although I spent my time with him all the time. He would also get upset when random girls on the street would stare at me for any reason, because he thought that her and I had this whole history and that I was trying to take her guy, and for that reason she hated me. And for that reason, she was looking at me. It couldn't be anything else, like maybe she liked my clothes or something. It had to be the fact that I was doing something bad to her. He also hated when guys stared at me, because that meant that I knew the guy from someplace and that the guy was following us around, keeping tabs on me, because he was probably my pimp or my lover. Right. And God forbid anyone gave me a compliment, he would get envious and jealous. But if someone said I had nice eyes, I hated it. I would avoid eye contact with people just so that no one would say anything. Part 4 of what would make my celebrity ex-boyfriend crazy, jealous, and mad. Because he was so jealous and controlling, I never put my phone in my pocket or in my hand or anything like that, because I didn't want him to think that I was hiding anything from him. I always left it in plain sight so that he could check it if he wanted to. So this one time my mom called me and I answered the phone. He was right there in front of me and I said, "Hi mom, blah, 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 blah." We had a bit of a conversation and he got up and left. So I stayed in the room and I left my phone there, and then I went to the kitchen where he was, and he comes up to me and he says, "Who was that on the phone?" And I said, "That was my mom." And he's like, "No, it wasn't. That's why I had to leave the room, because I couldn't stand listening to you lie to my face." I said, "Why don't you go check my phone to see if it's actually my mom?" So guess what he does? He goes and grabs my phone and calls my mom. He says, "Who is this?" He was so rude to her. I was mortified. And worst of all, my mom thought it was a joke, so she kind of started laughing, and then he hung up on her. After that, he didn't speak to me for at least a week, and then he broke up with me. Part 5 of what would make my celebrity ex-boyfriend crazy jealous. One of the things that would instantly make him upset was if I answered my text messages too quick when they came in. So whenever a text message would come in, I would wait 4 to 5 minutes so that he could see that I was in no rush to get it. If I did answer it too quick, he thought that I had a pimp or somebody waiting for me and that I was just getting ready to go to work. So this one time my mom messages me and I see her text message come in, so I grab my phone right away to text her back, because we weren't really talking on the phone much because of him. He would always get jealous. Seeing that my mom texted me, I picked up the phone and I replied back. He grabbed it from me instantly without even saying anything and asked who it was, and I said it was my mom. He looked at all the messages. He actually read all of my messages with my mom nonstop for about 30 minutes and then came to the conclusion that it wasn't her. He then interrogated me for an hour, and then he kicked me out because I wouldn't tell him who it was. Part 5 of what would make my celebrity ex super angry and jealous. He would always get mad if I was nice to our server, whether it was a man or a woman, because to him it was competition and it meant that I wanted them because I was being nice to them. I would mostly stay over at his place, and trust me, there were days where I just wanted to be by myself. So in order for me to go home, I would have to come up with an excuse like I was waiting for a package, or I had to go clean my apartment, or my landlord needed me there, because if I went home, he would get mad. Part
Nobody
7 of what
deserves
would
to be
make
in
my
a celebrity
relationship like
ex
that, and
crazy,
we all
jealous,
deserve
and mad.
love.
He would always get mad if I would go run errands by myself, so eventually I had to ask him to go everywhere with me, but then this made him think that I was clingy, although I had to act like I was clingy so that he thought that I wanted to be with him all the time, but I didn't really. Everyone wants their own space, for goodness sake, just to go to run errands. I could never show him that I was independent, because if I showed him that I was independent, it meant that I didn't need him, and that terrified him. He would also get mad if I spent too much time on my laptop, so any work I had to do, I would have to do it really fast, because otherwise he would be right there over my shoulder looking and asking what I was doing, and I hated that. I've had a lot of DMs from girls saying that they've had similar situations or that they're currently in a similar situation, and I'm happy to be able to help you guys. If you're in a really toxic relationship right now or being abused in any sort of way, please look out for yourself. Please find help. Please tell your family if you can.